perhaps the world leader in talking about sponsorship analysis and sponsorship and analysing sponsorship ROI. So once again, Neilsen, partners of MEI for a long, long time, so I'm delighted that they should share their best practice with you.
Thank you, Andy, and especially thank you to all the team for inviting us today. So my name is Carlo Brocca. I'm the International Sales Director of Neilsen Sport. I'm going to make a quick introduction and then leave the stage to my colleague Jan Dreesbach, who is our Consulting Director for International Federation. So we are going to talk about the rising importance of social and environmental impact when it comes to measure the holistic value of your events. This is a quick agenda, so we are going to talk about the importance of environmental and social impact, and we will end up with a case study from our clients, World Athletics, so where we are going to provide you some data and insight. In the past, when it comes to analyze the value of an event, we use mainly two dimensions, the sporting performance and economic impact. Nowadays, with a growing awareness of issues such as climate change, sustainability, diversity, inclusion, elements such as social and environmental are no more a nice to have in the event strategy, but they have to be a core part of this. And before giving the word to my colleague, just want to mention some example of sport and events that are outstanding from the crowd for their social and environmental behavior. So the first one is SAGP with Impact League, where they track all the positive action to reduce the emission and to promote inclusion in SAGP. And they use this to assign points to award the winner with funding for their purpose partner. Formula E probably is one of the best cases that has been the first global event to be certified and the only one to be certified as a net zero carbon footprint sport. World Athletics with the CSR project, Athletic for a Better World. Commonwealth 2022 with the social value charter, and Paris 24, which has the aim, a big aim, to have a positive impact on the planet during the events. So they are going to halve their emission, and they are going to offset more CO2 than the one that will be generated. They are going to use 95% of existing or temporary venue. And so they are going only to build up the Paralympic and the Olympic Village and the Aquatic Center. And the Aquatic Center will be located in an area where 50% of children are not able to swim. So in this way, to promote, again, a healthier lifestyle. Jan, please go ahead, and thank you.
Okay, when we have a broader perspective, on the stakeholders of rights holders and event organizers. Event organizers, what do we see? We see that the demands of these stakeholders groups are really growing, coming or having an eye on host cities. Yeah, they feel and have the political or the pressure of politic and the public to justify the investments in the events, and that is not nowadays limited to the economic or financial perspective. They all also ask for the environmental cost and impact, and also for the social impact events are creating. And we had the Accor case here some minutes ago. Also, sponsors are questioning or asking for more, because their customers or clients care more about being sustainable. And also the capital market is asking for more sustainable behavior of brands. And we see that development also in our consultancy work for brands. We often do consulting work for brands to identify promising and suitable sponsorship platforms for them. And when we receive the briefings nowadays, they say, okay, the events or rights holders should have a sustainability strategy in place. If not, we are not thinking about cooperating with them. And we have the stakeholders, the fan perspective. They do, nowadays really question about the sustainability of events, and accordingly to that, they build their attitude to events and also the consumption behavior. And we do have some examples for that, and also can show that by our data. Here you see the data from our global study, Neilsen Fan Insights, and there you do see that environmental and social topics are really important for the sports fans, and you're going to see that they care about environmental change, reducing plastic, really being sustainable, and also care about social topics like that everyone has access to education, that everybody has equal opportunities, and also care highly about human rights issues. When you have a look at Neilsen Sports, we are able to assist you and support you throughout the whole event management process, beginning with the pre-eventment phase, where we can help event organizers and rights holders to identify host cities, and also taking into account the event strategy and the vision of the rights holders, that they really took the right events, and also help developing sales stories to win these host cities. We're also able to forecast the value of events in order to go into the conversation with host cities and say, okay, that will be the value that we bring to you as a host city or tourism region. The core is really the event impact study, where we calculate and assess the value of your event. And then there's a post-event phase where we can show the sponsorship impact, and also helping you on improving future events by taking into account the attendance perspective and how satisfied they had been with your events. How do we assess the value of events? When I started at Neilsen Sports, we mainly concentrate on the economic perspective, taking into account expenses or direct economic effects and expenses, and also the indirect economic impacts. Nowadays, we have different pillars where the value stems from, really try to holistically show the value of events, taking into account also the media value that we are observing across the media, the visibility and the presence of the event and the event city, and putting the advertising value behind that to calculate the monetary value from that. But we also have now an eye on the social perspective, and looking for what kind of social benefits are arising from the event. For an example, there's certainly value coming from educating all the volunteers, rising up their skill set. That is also a value for the host city region, because now these people, the volunteers, are more skilled, and these skills can be used when they are working for the local industry after the event, for an example. And we're also incorporating the environmental costs that the event creates, and have an eye on waste and energy that the event is spending, and also the cost, CO2 costs, for example from transportation. And the last pillar is we provide different kind of information on the attendance. That could be demographics, interest, but also the likelihood that they revisit the events or the host city regions, and also make recommendations with regard to the family or friends that they should visit the event city again. This is an example from the World Athletics and the U20 competition last year, or end of last year, in Nairobi. And there we adapted or used our new and updated methodology to assess the holistic value of events. And with the help of the new, just presented methodology, we were able to show that there is 16% more value coming from the other value dimensions. We also help World Athletics to quantify the social impact, so they can provide or show the host city what kind of social benefit is arising from that kind of event. And we also help World Athletics to really understand the environmental costs that these kind of events have, and also gives them some advice how they can lower the environmental costs. Yeah, in this year we will fully roll out our updated methodology, incorporating, for example, with FIBA, Volleyball World, and World Athletics, and we are happy maybe to come back next year to present some of our learnings stemming from our new updated methodology that we apply for host event impact analysis. And I would like to end with maybe 3 takeaways. We have seen that really key stakeholders of events asking for more. It's not just the economic value. We have to care about social and environmental friendly behavior that are not just nice to have. It should really be at the core of the strategy of events and the rights holder events. And we do see from the case studies Carlo presented that some of the rights holders and event organizers adapted that very quickly and could position them in a very attractive position. And on the other hand, what will be with the other rights holders and event organizers? They will lose, ultimately, the support of key stakeholders, because as we've seen with the example of Accor, sponsors will not get into any event if it's not fitting with their sustainability agenda. And that's one of the reasons that rights holders should have a holistic evaluation of their events and have the ability, the data, really to make a good key stakeholder management and showing what kind of value they can provide in different kind of dimensions. Okay, that's it. Open for questions.
So we'll do questions before we give Neilsen a round of applause for sharing that level of data. I'll just use my natural booming voice. So Neilsen, as I mentioned before, are world leaders in providing ROI solutions for both sponsors and rights holders. So they have an interesting perspective on what both sets of groups are looking for from data and analysis. We've focused, or Neilsen have focused specifically on the social, the values side of sponsorship at the moment. So is there anyone who's got a dedicated question on that and everything that's been presented? No? Okay. If I ask you to go back to the former panel, that there was a beautiful segue between what they were talking about and what you've presented on. But broadening your experience about what sponsors want, so brands as well. What are brands asking you to collect data on and report on to see whether or not their sponsorship is providing an ROI?
What I just said, I think that more and more brands are looking that it's fitting to their strategy. Maybe, Andy, you can repeat your questions with the ROI.
Sorry. So we've established that brands are looking for data analysis from the federations. We've established that they're looking for high values in terms of social impact. Are they looking for anything else? Are they asking you to capture any other sort of data to allow them to report back to their financial directors and said, this sponsorship money that I've spent was a good decision. I'm a good marketing director. This was a good choice.
What I can remember, what kind of difference or what kind of development I see. It's more and more that sponsors are looking for use cases that they can present their ability together with the rights holder, and also present their new services, products, and so on. And that is a development I can see. And from that,
so that's an interesting. So if we just mine down a little bit on that. So if you are a rights holder, don't just think about the media reach and the data and the values that you can transfer. Think about how you can embed the services of that particular corporate brand in some way in what you do. So a perfect example is what we're doing here in terms of we have sponsors like Eventsair, we have sponsors like Blade Rig. They love sponsoring us because we're able to showcase their expertise. So if you take that into a B2C environment, then you just need to get a little bit creative. Don't just think about what that brand is, but think what it's trying to present itself as, and you might be able to help them with that.
Well, before joining Neilsen Sport, I used to work for Juventus as a head of sales, so I'm quite familiar with talking with brands. So really, I agree with you, Andy. So brands want to really engage with your right holders. So you have really allowed them to work with you. So it's not just a matter of asking money and putting a logo somewhere, but you have really to let them work with you and providing a really ROI. And also, so well, in these days we are talking a lot about data. So that is fundamental. And what we saw before is really insightful, and because it happens quite often, so especially working for a football club like Juventus or Barcelona, they show you that they have 300 million, 500 million followers on social media, but then at the end of the day, they have no clue who they are. And then if you go back to, they ask them about the CRM, they have maybe 1-2 million people in the data in the CRM, and the data are not fully. So really, we have to work. So right holders have really to work on engagement, on the data, and on the CRM system. So thank you.
Thank you, Carlo. Now, I'm always in a little bit of a dilemma when I put these events on, because I'm very, very conscious that there is not a sort of a teacher-student scenario here. In fact, everyone sitting out here could quite easily have sat on a panel and spoke very, very professionally, very, very insightfully on something, on an area of expertise which you all have. So while we're waiting for Dennis and the host cities to join us, I'd like to give anyone the opportunity just to make a comment on a theme which was raised yesterday or today, or to get up and say, I'd like you to know about me and what I do because I might be able to help. Would anyone like to take that opportunity? Sarah?
Any other business.
Sort of any other business, exactly. So this is an unusual opportunity for you to get up, and normally you should not make a comment when you're asked to ask a question, but now I'm inviting you to make a comment. Thank you, Michael. Thank you for saving me.
Thank you very much. It's great to see Neilsen doing this, because many years ago when I was working for a company called SportCal, we were trying to encourage sports federations particularly to think about the broader context of the impact of sports events. And I think we've heard it today, what sponsors are looking for, and particularly with host cities, I think now the agenda is much broader. So it's a lot more about social and environmental. And I think if anything, from the perspective of the pandemic, I think it's a really interesting and opportunity moment to kind of rethink the way we look at the benefit of sport, and not just sports events, but sport as a whole. And that's driven me to kind of put out a thought about sustainability, because that's a topic on everybody's lips. It's a difficult one because I think we come back to how do you define sustainability. So there's a whole piece of work that Neilsen, I'm sure, is doing in that space. And I know there's a lot of other people doing that. It was interesting talking to Tanya Braga yesterday about the work they're doing with OECD. So my challenge really to the industry is, I think the industry delivers an enormous amount of benefit to society, but we don't really quantify that well enough, I don't think. And I think that sustainability is basically, are we going to have more sustainable future? And I think sport is going to play a really important part of that. And so it's about quantifying, it's about narrative, it's about a whole set of things. But I think as an industry, we can do an enormous amount. But what we're all doing is doing it individually rather than collectively. So my purpose, if you like, is to suggest that actually as an industry, we come together and talk about what we do as an industry to deliver sustainability around the world. And it's, I've got a pack, so I'm very happy to sort of share that with everyone, which is about us as an industry. We probably have 300, 400,000 organizations working in and around sport, but we have 3 billion sports fans around the world. So imagine if we could get the message through sport to those fans that sustainability is really important, we could have quite an impact.
Yeah, it was interesting, wasn't it? You know, if you think back to apartheid, you think back to the sanctions which are being put on Russia. You know, as economically banning Russian athletes from games or any of the sort of federations, and I have to give massive kudos to the IOC for actually taking a lead on that sort of thing. It shows just the power of sport. I was so pleased to be able to team up with Sport and Peace, and we can change the world. We are sports administrators. We are sports leaders here. We mustn't underestimate the power that we all have if we start thinking, you know, as a values-driven group. So thank you, Mike. Thanks for making that point. And we can, you know, sport really can change the world. It's been proved.